Howdy, my name is Kobe and I am the Marketing Director for Highland Canyon, and today I will be showing you how to install a Highland Canyon muzzle brake on one of your rifles. Before we get started, please remember to take your time during the installation process and always prioritize safety. Make sure your firearm is unloaded and made safe before you start the installation. As I mentioned before, we want to make sure that the firearm is safe before we start the installation process. As you can see, we do not have any ammunition in the chamber, and we also removed the bolt as an extra precaution. Let's get a quick overview of the tools that will be required for today's job. First, you'll need a torque wrench that measures in inch-pounds with a 3/4 inch socket. You'll need your Highland Canyon spanner wrench that was provided with the purchase of your muzzle brake. You'll need 2 crescent wrenches. And you'll notice on our crescent wrench that we have actually lined the jaws with masking tape. The reason we do this is to prevent any scratches or damages that may occur to the brake finish during the installation process. And finally, not required, but I personally recommend having a level to aid in the positioning of the top vent. Now that we are familiar with the tools and we have confirmed that the rifle is unloaded and safe to work with, we can go ahead and get started. We want to begin by removing any existing muzzle device or thread protectors that may have already been on the rifle. Once we do this, we can get a closer look at the muzzle threads and check for any contaminants or broken or damaged threads that may cause issues when installing the Highland Canyon muzzle brake. We also want to take this opportunity to inspect our muzzle brake components. Here on the lock ring, we want to make sure that the mating surface between the outer body of the brake is clean and free of any contaminants. And we also want to check the barrel side of the lock ring and make sure that there is no damage or contaminants in there as well. We also want to check the mating surface on our outer member here and how that's going to fit together with our lock ring and make sure that it's nice and flush and will be a good fit once we get it on the muzzle. Before I thread my lock ring onto the muzzle, I want to take a second to mention that if you have a large amount of relief between the end of your muzzle threads and the shoulder of your barrel, you will want to reverse the lock ring off of the muzzle enough to have full thread engagement between the lock ring and the muzzle threads. For the sake of the installation video, and because there isn't that significant of a relief on this rifle, I will be threading my lock ring all the way until it stops against the shoulder. I know that once I reverse thread the lock ring against the outer member of the brake, I will have all threads engaged. Now that we have inspected our muzzle threading and all of our muzzle brake components, we can go ahead and thread our lock ring onto our muzzle. Be sure that the counterbore side of your lock ring is facing the stock of your gun when threading onto the muzzle. The counterbore side of the lock ring will then slide over the barrel of your rifle, and you can go ahead and just spin that until it stops. Next, we will be taking the caliber specific inner and threading it into the outer body of the muzzle brake assembly. We're just going to go hand tight for now. We will torque it to spec later when it is on the rifle. Once you have that finger tight, go ahead and thread the assembly onto the muzzle of your rifle. At this point in the installation, it might be a little difficult to tell because of the camera angle, but we do not have our vents in the correct position. To get them there, we want to rotate the brake assembly counterclockwise, reversing it off of the muzzle of the rifle until we have the top vent and the Highland Canyon logo in the 12 o'clock position. You'll notice that it only takes about half a rotation on this rifle to get the top vent where it needs to be. We don't want to reverse the brake assembly too far off of the muzzle because we want to keep as many threads engaged as possible between the brake assembly and the barrel of the rifle. Now that we have our top vent and our Highland Canyon logo in the 12 o'clock position, we can rotate our lock ring counterclockwise until finger tight against the brake assembly. Before I fully tighten my lock ring using my crescent wrenches, I personally like to take a level and lay it across the flat on top of my muzzle brake. I've already leveled my rifle, and I can see here that I've got a level muzzle brake, meaning that top vent is in the exact 12 o'clock position, right where I need it. I can now take my crescent wrenches and tighten the lock ring down. Using my masking tape lined crescent wrenches, I'm going to place one crescent wrench on the wrench flats of the outer body of the brake assembly, and I'm going to use the other one to tighten the lock ring against the outer body of the brake assembly. We're not looking for too much pressure here, just about 10 foot-pounds. We want to be careful that we don't put too much pressure and actually roll the wrench flats on the lock ring. Now that we have our lock ring tight against the outer body of our brake, we can go ahead and tighten our caliber specific inner to the correct spec. To do this, we'll need our torque wrench set to 80 inch-pounds with our 3/4 inch socket and our Highland Canyon spanner wrench. Little helpful hint here is I've bundled up some masking tape and dropped it into the bottom of my socket so that when I place my Highland Canyon spanner wrench in there, it stays nice and flush with the edge and doesn't drop down inside. So we'll go ahead and line our 2 pins up with our pinholes on the inner member here. And we'll take our crescent wrench with our masking tape, place it on the outer body, and we're going to go ahead and torque to 80 inch-pounds. The wrench broke over, so I know we are torqued to spec. Now that we have our lock ring tightened to 10 foot-pounds and we have our caliber specific inner tightened to 80 inch-pounds, I personally like to use my level one last time to make sure nothing moved around during all the tightening. So I've already leveled my rifle. I'm taking my level, laying it across the top flat of my muzzle brake, and I can see that I'm still level, so I'm good to go. And there you have it. You have successfully installed your Highland Canyon muzzle brake onto your rifle. It's always a good idea to physically inspect the brake after the first couple shots just to make sure nothing has come loose. If you have any questions or concerns during the installation process, you can find our email and phone number in the footer of this video or in the support section of our website at www.highlandcanyon.com. Thanks for watching.